How do you interpret dreams? What are neural implants all about? What's the connection with the President of the United States, Elon Musk, and the Pope? Well, I have a common thread with me, a genius sitting right beside me, Professor Moran Cerf. What a pleasure to have you with us here at the India Today Conclave.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Okay, we geeked out on stage quite a bit, but now we need all the behind-the-scenes moments for social media, right? So I'm going to start off with something which is like a headline grabber, which is the President of the United States sits you in a room and then asks you for your advice. If there is a nuclear crisis, what does he do with the nuclear codes? Now, this is something relevant for all of us in a scenario where we're always fear-mongering, but this is a genuine fear, Professor. What did you tell the President of the United States?
His team. So here's the scenario I think everyone can think for a second at home. Imagine that you're in a position of power. You are told there's a missile coming from whatever country you don't like. You have 15 minutes to decide. Now, what do? You say, okay, I need more information. Do I panic and run out of the room? Do I immediately attack back? Do I ask for more advice from someone that I trust or someone that I don't trust and then can avoid that? All of those questions are questions that everyone has to think about when they're about to make a choice, especially the president when they are in a position to actually start this World War III. And the question is, how do you train them for that? And also, after you train them, what actually is the routine? That's where scientists back in 1940s emerged with the protocol that is the protocol we have right now. And now, 2024, President Biden wants to consider a different one. And that's when I come to offer alternatives. How does it look? So right now, the president is the only person who alone gets to decide to launch a nuclear weapon. There's no checks and balances. There's no, if he says, I want that, it happens within a few minutes. And we have reasons to believe that not all presidents are composed, rational, and measured as you would want them to be, especially from the 9 countries that have nuclear weapons. And now the question is, how do you make them such? So one way to do it is by introducing more people. So instead of just the president deciding, you say it's going to be 3 people, president, vice president, and the Speaker of the House together having to decide, and maybe a majority or everyone has to veto. That's another specific kind of protocol. Maybe they do this thing in a process that forces them to take time. Like it just says, you can't decide in 5 minutes. You have to spend time talking about it. Maybe you say you need to, at least before you decide, talk about the option that's against that and give arguments for it. There are, to the kind of level of anecdotes, there was a scientist at some point who said that the nuclear codes should actually be inside the body of the president's aide. So the president would have to actually kill his aide and pull the nuclear protocol outside and launch the codes. And this will basically make the president feel what it means to kill one person before they're about to kill 30 million. All of those are things that are on the menu. We went with a lot more sane one, but you get the point. It's a really tough choice, and now scientists have to come up with an answer.
No, and I'm glad that he did consult someone as brilliant as you, so we know that the future of the world is in safe hands. But another thing I wanted to understand from you was really studying your relationship with Elon Musk, right? And I'm going to put it in simpler words. Long history, Professor Moran Cerf, in 2005, with his AI, with his neuroscience research, is Neuralink today, to a large extent, with what Elon is doing. Can I safely say that your relationship with the man, the phenomenon that is Elon Musk, is a love-hate one?
I think that the world has this relationship with. I'm not different in this thing. I think that my relationship is a little more intimate in that I think that I see the people that I know operating under his regime in an attempt to take science and make it product. And I think that's a fantastic thing, but also a risky thing. And I think my role is kind of like of an educated observer that says, wait, this thing I think he's doing great, this thing is doing terrible, and basically waging war when it's a terrible idea and supporting when it's a great idea. Effectively, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, my colleagues and I pioneered research that is all about putting neural implants in the brain. And the idea here, you put something inside the brain and you can have access to someone's thoughts. That's the most simple version of that. 15 years after, Elon Musk created a company that's all about that, putting neural implants inside people's brain with, first, a clinical kind of idea that will help people, and potentially in the future, a recreational idea where everyone's phone is going to be replaced with a neural implant. So instead of talking to a device, you just think a thought, and it's going to go to the cloud and come back with an answer. So you drive your car, and you say, I don't know if I need to go left or right to get to the nearest Starbucks, and your brain will ask Google Maps, what's the answer? Get the answer, and you just suddenly feel, yeah, it's going to go left. And that's it. And all of that is like an endeavor that Neuralink is really after. And I think that it's going to definitely change the world. Whether we like it or not, different question.
What's interesting is the cookies that are always being recorded when we're on the internet and here on social media as well. So I'm going to say this so that my reach increases. Ayush, 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 Ayush. Maybe now everyone's phones are going to be searching for me. Now, on a serious note though, Professor Cerf, I know you also study dreams. And that's just me putting it as a general headline, studying dreams. Right? So I have a few people on our team and they've been asking us a bunch of questions. Someone says, if I see a black horse, in Hindi we call it Kala Ghoda. If I see a black, very quick, yeah, and that's actually a very important landmark in Mumbai as well. If I see a black horse in my dream, what does that mean?
I have no good answer. I'm gonna give you the. So I'll tell you the background of that, and then I'll disappoint you with no concrete answer to that. I'll start maybe with the end. There are seven groups of scientists who argue fiercely what is the meaning of a dream, and they range from it means nothing to it's actually a predictive action that you're simulating in your mind. That's the range. So some would say the horse is just meaningless. It's your brain trying to just process stuff and it means nothing and don't put any meaning to it and so on. And there's a group that I'm more close to that says that everything that you dream story-wise relates to you simulating some future and considering it. Here's what I'm going to say. Whether it means something scientifically or not, we don't have an answer yet, but we do know that people attribute meaning to that. So if you wake up in the morning and you tell your wife, I had a great dream about my ex-girlfriend, she's going to punish you in the real world, regardless of whether dreams have a meaning. Like she wouldn't say, well, your brain created an incident and I don't care. You're going to be blamed in the real world for the dream. So in that sense, people put meaning to dreams, whether they mean something or not. Freud made a career out of that. What we do right now, and that's why I kind of get excited and my heart's palpitating, we are able to see dreams. So Freud and Carl Jung and all of the researchers from the last 100 years, you telling him a story after you wake up. And that's a limitation of the brain. Like you don't really know that the dream that you tell is the one that you had. Now we can put something inside your head or around your head, have you go to sleep, and essentially parse the visual about the real dream. That's the cool thing.
See, this is why I like social media so much more than being on the big stage, because now this is something I couldn't pick your brain on. So let me just picturize this. You have a helmet on or you have electrodes in my brain. There has to be some invasive bit. And then you get a motion picture of exactly what's going on. This is happening at your research lab as we speak, Professor.
So there's two teams and they argue fiercely on how it should be done. There's team one, that's a team in Japan, that puts something outside your head, on the outside. And they essentially listen to the part of the brain that sees visuals. And you go to sleep. And if in your dream you see your best friend wearing a red t-shirt running next to the ocean, what they would see is a rectangle that is like blue for the ocean and a red square moving around. So they'll be able to actually see your dreams as visuals from the device that they use. That's team one. We like them, but what they miss is they don't really know that the blue rectangle is the ocean or your brother or your friend. They just kind of see images and they have to make sense of them as much as they can. There's team two, our team, and what we do is we put a neural implant inside your head.
Okay.
A lot more invasive, and don't try it at home. But what we do is we actually have access to the part of your brain that is semantic. We can actually see in your brain the neurons that code your sister, your brother, your best friend. So we don't really see what you see, but we can tell that you right now are imagining your mom. We don't know how she looks. We don't know if she's wearing a white t-shirt or a blue t-shirt, but you know that this is the thought you have. Combining what they do and what we do together, you can actually now parse the dream and see it. And actually have a visual of the dream in your mind on a screen.
Another quick question before we end is from the team, deja vu. Now we talk about this in like literature and stuff. Now I can actually say this moment happened before because I sat with you on this couch a few moments ago. I went on stage with you. So some of these things we've been chatting, really planning this out. Deja vu, is it a thing or is it what we tell our brain that, hey, this happened before, just to comfort it and give yourself some reassurance?
Are you ready to be answered? Wow.
We're all ready for the answer. They're celebrating that with the answer as well. And there's a special reason I'll reveal at the end of this interview.
We do know what deja vu is, we can explain it and we can predict it perfectly. So I'm kind of ruining it for you. People think it's mystical and so on. It's basically a very clear phenomenon that we can predict. I'll say it in one sentence and then if you want, elaborate. The simplest answer is that a part of your brain that when it fires, everything feels familiar. We can activate it, we can zap it, and once I zap it, everything that you go through in the next 10 seconds, you would feel that you've seen before, even though you have not. That's the simplest one. The more complex thing is that basically to have experiences, there are two systems in your brain that have to feed into the third one together. One system is the processing one that says, yes, it smells like my mom, it sounds like my mom, it looks like my mom. And another system has to fire and say, it's giving me the feeling of familiarity that my mom is. Together, when you have those two fire, you say, okay, it's my mom. If only one of them operates, you either think, I've seen it before, but I don't know when, or you have something that we call Capgras disorder, where you go home and your wife is there, and you say, there's a woman here who looks like my wife, smells like my wife, it's an imposter, because the other system didn't work. And that's something that people have as a disorder. They really think that people that's supposed to know are not who they are. They feel it's an imposter. That's the opposite of deja vu. Either way, we know exactly which systems to zap to make you feel either Capgras, which is you don't know who the people are, or you feel that everything is familiar.
You know, this is why I quit law and joined the media, because when you're covering technology, things become binary, 1 or 0. And you're telling me the brain works the same way. Absolutely fascinating. There was an exclusive scoop that I had for the end of this interview. It's a special day that Professor Cerf is joining us here at the India Today Conclave on the sidelines. We're going to celebrate now because it's his birthday. Happy birthday, sir.
Thank you.
And we really hope to have this conversation with you same time next year, maybe before that as well. We're going to be in touch with you.
We're going to celebrate better every year, every day. Okay.
We get better every day. And then we're going to say this was a moment of deja vu, and it's scientifically proven. What a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.